do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Curry, way downtown. Bang! Bang! Oh, what a shot from Curry!
All right, happy Friday, everybody. Welcome back here today to another episode of the Just Ballin' podcast. Today, I'm going to be implementing what I kind of want to do once a week. I'm only doing it on Fridays because of the alliteration. We're going to be basically doing 5 things Friday. So basically, it's 5 random topics that I want to talk to you guys about today, and we're going to go into detail in each one of them, and these are basically going to come up throughout the week and what I feel about them. I'm recording this on Thursday, March 14th, so we still have conference tournament play going on right now. My Temple Owls upsetted UTSA because they were like a couple point underdogs. All the conference tournaments are in full effect right now, so maybe we'll talk about that a little bit later on. But I got 5 topics. So they're basically, the first one we're going to talk about is Trae Young versus Dejounte Murray. Maybe the idea on what the Hawks should do going into the offseason, since even if they make the play-in tournament, they're probably not going to get out of it. Next thing I want to talk about is everybody's kind of mentioning how the 2024 draft class is a down draft class, and maybe compared to last year, I could see that. So I want to come up with the exercise. Who would be the worst player from the 2023 draft class that would go number 1 or has a chance to go number 1 in the 2024 class? I want to talk about head coaches that could potentially be let go at the end of the year, either playoff teams or non-playoff teams. I want to talk about where the Warriors would go from here as well if they are going to get eliminated, because I do watching the Warriors and I actually really like their roster right now. Like, I really enjoy watching Jonathan Kuminga. I really enjoy watching still Draymond Green and Klay Thompson play off each other. Obviously, when Curry's out there and healthy, love watching him. I really love Podziemski coming out of Santa Clara. So if you're going to draft some of my favorite guys, like I love Kuminga to the Ignite, I love Podziemski out of Santa Clara, I'm going to want to watch you. And then we're going to talk about like the next big name star that could get traded. And could that happen in the 24 offseason? Maybe that's going to go hand in hand with topic number 1. And if you guys are enjoying these, I would appreciate you dropping a thumbs up. If you're on YouTube, let me know your thoughts and opinions of this episode in the comments below. And then if you're on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, I'd appreciate just leaving a 5-star rating or review, or if it's a 1-star, I would love to hear your opinion. It definitely goes a long way and I appreciate it a ton. So what I want to talk about first is probably, or what I am going to talk about first is Trae Young versus Dejounte Murray. So Trae Young was drafted 5th overall in 2018. This was his 6th year in Atlanta. He's had multiple injuries this year. He has a finger injury right now, or he is going to be out for probably the rest of the regular season or close to it with this finger injury. 51 games he's played in this year, averaging 26 points. He was an all-star replacement, was not an initial all-star. 11 assists a night, 3 rebounds, shooting 42% from the field, 37% from 3, and 85% from the line. Trae Young did sign his rookie extension where he'd be making $40 million in 2024, $43 million in 2025, $46 million in 26. He could opt out in 2027 at basically $9 million. So Trae Young is obviously going to be locked into a contract either way, no matter where he ends up. For the first time in a while, the Hawks are a little bit better with him off the floor. Obviously, the sample size has been weird this year. They've had multiple injuries. Trae Young has been, I guess, he's been a polarizing guy for most of his career. I mean, he came in right away averaging 19 and 8 as a rookie, as a 20-year-old. He averaged 30 points and 9 assists as a sophomore. I don't care how bad his defense was then. That is incredibly hard to pull off and to go through. And what Trae Young has done basically with this Hawks team and with his limitations on the defensive side of the floor has been very impressive. Going to Dejounte Murray, he's appeared in 62 games this year. He's been more healthy. He has a notable contract because he got extended last year. He's going to be making $25 million next year, $26.7 in 2026, $28.7 in 2027, and then a $30 million player option in 2028 that he could opt out of. So he's going to be making 18-ish million less per year than Trae Young. He's averaging 22 points, 6 assists, 5 rebounds this year, shooting 47% from the field, 36% from 3, and 80% from the line. Now, Trae Young's last game was February 23rd, before he ended up having like that finger surgery. And since February 23rd, Dejounte Murray, I think, has shown a little bit, I don't know, improvement to what he has done as a number 1 scorer. He's averaging 26 points, 8 assists, and 6 rebounds a night, shooting 48% from the field, 36% from 3 in those 10 games without Trae Young. I don't think they work well together. I don't. This Hawks team this year is way too good to not be competing for a much higher seed in the Eastern Conference. There's no reason for them to be where they are right now in the East with a 29-36 record, being the 10th seed. Like, they're fighting the Brooklyn Nets for the 10th seed to probably get eliminated by the Bulls in like one of the playing tournament. Could they beat the Bulls? Sure. Are they going to beat the Pacers or Heat in the second leg? No, probably not, if those were the two teams that they go up against. So this team, with Jalen Johnson being a most improved guy this year, they moved John Collins. I don't know. They have two centers, Clint Capella and Onyeka Okongwu, and I feel like Clint Capella is always hurt. They have Bogdan Bogdanovic. They had their first-round pick last year in Kobe Buffkin. They brought in Quinn Snyder, paid him a ton of money to be the head coach. Quinn Snyder is like their third coach, fourth technically, of the Trae Young era in Atlanta. Sadiq Bey tore his ACL, which is awful. He's going to be out for the year and part of next year. Bogdan Bogdanovic has been fine this year. DeAndre Hunter has been good, but when he is healthy, that's always a big if every year. He's only appeared in 41 games this year. They feel like they're scared to, I feel like, commit to Onyeka Okongwu as the full-time 5, even though they extended him. I really hope this is Clint Capella's last year here. And what's going on with AJ Griffin, man? Showed so much promise as a rookie, and it's just been fizzled out of the rotation this year. It's weird, man. He's last appeared in a game on January 30th, 2 points per game this year. He had such an encouraging year last year. 39% from three as a rookie, as a 19-year-old. I know it's that Adrian Griffin. I know maybe there's been some off-the-floor stuff, but what's going on with the Atlanta Hawks, man? What's going on? Landry Fields has a big decision to make this offseason. Trae Young or Dejounte Murray, who is he going to ride with going forward? Because I don't think that they work well together. I don't. They both need the ball in their hands, and I don't think Dejounte Murray can hide the fact of Trae Young's defense in the backcourt when Dejounte Murray's defense has already taken a step back. So now you have two negative defenders in the backcourt defensively, and neither of them can really, I feel like, play off ball well enough offensively. Like Trae Young, you would think maybe he could play better off ball. No, he works way better as the pick and roll maestro, him with the ball in his hands, running that offense. Dejounte Murray is not doesn't have that good of a release, not that great off ball to be an off the ball guy. So Murray is definitely easier to Trae Young is definitely easier to trade because, like, his pedigree, he's averaged 25 points and 9.5 assists over the 6 years of his career. You can get multiple unprotected first-round picks from him. And there's going to be teams that would be interested in Trae Young. Your division rival, the Washington Wizards, need a point guard. The San Antonio Spurs need somebody to pair up with Victor Wembanyama. And the Utah Jazz would maybe be interested. They have the assets to go out and get Trae Young. I think there'd be some teams out there. The Brooklyn Nets probably don't want to rebuild. It seems like they're going to be incompetent. Maybe they would want Trae Young. Just kind of going through some other teams. I think that may be it. In the Eastern Conference, the West, probably, I'm sure the Lakers would like to get involved. The Pelicans would maybe want to get involved as well. So there would be a significant Trae Young market. Now, would I move Trae Young? My answer is no. I think I still prefer Trae Young over Dejounte Murray for this Atlanta team because obviously Trae Young's better, but obviously he'd net a larger return. I think for your building blocks next year, I would love to see this front court of Jalen Johnson at the 4, who could space the 4, crazy athletic, and a good ball handler. Good defender as well. You found somebody there that could be your stretch 4. At the 5 spot, let it be Onyeka Okongwu. I don't care if you trade Clint Capella for 2 second-rounders. There's no purpose to have him on this team after this year. He has stopped and been a roadblock for Okongwu's development as a starting 5, basically since Okongwu got drafted in 2020. So let's see you move on from Clint Capella. Let's go out and just add maybe a backup big man in the draft potentially, or you can go from there. Now, the Hawks do have their first-round pick. If they don't make the play-in tournament, this team could be picking in the top 10. If they even get eliminated in the play-in tournament, they could get some luck in the lottery. So obviously there's some guys that I would really like to see get added to this team. If you move Dejounte Murray, whose contract would be a little bit easier to move at $30 million roughly a year, $25 million next year. There is a $15% trade kicker in there. But I think he will have a market. And I think him playing well enough without Trae Young, and we're kind of seeing that glimpses of that all-star season he had in San Antonio in 2022 before getting traded to the Hawks. I think teams would definitely be interested in Dejounte Murray. Would the Knicks be interested again? I don't think so. I think the Lakers would once again be interested. I think the Pelicans would be interested. I know that the Hawks asked for Herb Jones at the deadline, and the Pelicans are like, no, we're not trading the best defender in the league for Murray. Sorry if you hear some sirens in the background. Shout out Philadelphia, man. It's always nice to hear those here. But yeah, I think there would be a robust market for Dejounte Murray. I don't know if the Dallas Mavericks would be interested. Probably not. Not the Warriors. The Lakers would be. The Jazz could be. Not the Grizzlies. Not the Blazers. Could we see a reunion in San Antonio? Maybe. Minnesota, I'm sure, would love to get involved. But would they be willing to part ways with Jaden McDaniels or Naz Reid? Maybe. we got to see what they think. If they think they have a kind of a closer window with Rudy Gobert getting up there in age, maybe. I don't think Denver or OKC would really look after or go after Dejounte Murray. Bucks would, I'm sure, love him. Don't have the assets to get it done. I mean, the Knicks could, but I don't think him and Brunson would play all that well together, so I don't think the Knicks would do that. Sixers, because Maxey could play off ball. I mean, the Sixers could get involved in Dejounte Murray. I just think that it'll be a little bit easier because Murray will go for 1, maybe 2 first-round picks, but the second one I think has to be pretty protected. Maybe you can get one unprotected first. Maybe. And I don't think it's going to be in the 2025 draft. Like, it could be in this 24 draft where teams just really don't want maybe some of these picks. Could Toronto want Dejounte Murray? Maybe, and rock a backcourt of Emmanuel Quickley and Murray if they feel like they don't really like Nikola Topic that much, or they don't really like Rob Dillingham or Reed Shepherd or maybe this point guard class. So I think Murray is going to get traded out of these guys, and I think it's obviously a lot easier to trade somebody in the offseason. Could they run this team back? Yes. Could they run a Murray and Trae Young backcourt back? Yes. And then you would figure out who's the 3 next year. Is it DeAndre Hunter? Is it a draft pick? Is it somebody in a trade? Is it Bogey? You really hope not. Jalen Johnson at the 4, Okongwu at the 5. You could say, let's give it one more shot. We try to improve on the margins defensively this summer. Maybe they get somebody on the mid-level exception that can help out their defense. Maybe they look to move somebody. AJ Griffin gets traded. Maybe they move DeAndre Hunter, because you could think theoretically DeAndre Hunter could be that 3, but when will DeAndre Hunter stay officially healthy? So if I had to choose between Trae Young or Murray, I'm trading DeJounte Murray. I'm opting with Trae Young. I think he's looked a little bit better on defense this year. Still not a good defender by any means, but you could still have something special with Trae Young in Atlanta, and I think it would be cool if he spent his whole career there. He's meant a lot to the city since they drafted him in 2018. They traded the Luka Doncic pick for him. So I think you want to hold on to Trae Young, and you hope that Murray helped out his value a little bit with him performing at a high level without Trae Young. So that was my first topic that I want to talk about, Trae Young versus DeJounte Murray. Now let's talk about the worst player from the 2023 draft class that could go number 1 in the 2024 draft. So right now you have pretty much like 3 different guys that are projected to go number 1 in the 2024 draft. Alex Sarr from the NBL. You have Zachary Reese-Hachey from Jailberg. And then you also, I'm not going to say Reed Shepherd's going to go number 1. I know Kevin O'Connor put him number 1 in his mock, but I think it's really those 2 right now. Ron Holland could get steam as the number 1 overall pick. I don't think Rob Dillingham will go number 1. Nikola Topic, if he comes back and we see anything of him before the 2024 draft process, he could go number 1. But I think right now it's between the French prospects of Sarr and Reese-Hachey. So obviously the number 1 French prospect from the 2023 draft, Victor Wembanyama, would clearly go number 1 in this draft. He'd probably go number 1 in every draft. Maybe that was in 2003 in the 21st century. So that is pretty easy. Brandon Miller would go number 1. I think I'm also going to evaluate this of what we knew from these guys in their collegiate or international or G League season. Not knowing what we knew this year. So we're going to put ourselves back in maybe March or April or May or June of 2023. So going into the prospect seasons, knowing we just watched Brandon Miller at a really good Alabama team. We watched Scoot Henderson play a little bit for the G League Ignite. We saw Wemby play pretty late in the season for the Metropolitans 92. So knowing what we know, or taking out what we know from their rookie seasons, going back a year, that's what we're going to look at this as, because I think that's kind of unfair. Because obviously, you could say Podziemski could go maybe number 1 because he's a pretty good player already. Brandon Miller would go number 1 though. His ability to handle the rock at his size, his frame, and his ability to knock down shots at Bama, his ability to drive to the rim. He had 3-level scorer potential then. He was always looked at to be a top 3 pick pretty much after conference tournament play, was a guaranteed top 3 pick. It was either between him or Scoot Henderson, so he would go number 1 in this draft 100%. Scoot Henderson would also go number 1 in this draft. I know he has not had a good rookie year. He's shooting 37% from the field and 30% from 3, basically. He's had an up and down rookie season, and there were some inefficiencies with the Ignite last year. There was some maybe motor issues. Obviously, he played 2 years at the Ignite, and he knew he was going to be a top 3 pick for his second year, so he really didn't have to give out all that effort. Obviously didn't want to get hurt. Was going to be a top 3 pick regardless. He was always, if you remember then, was always consensus number 2, basically until the last month of the pre-draft process, where the Hornets ended up getting the second pick in the lottery, and Brandon Miller going number 2 gained a lot of steam because obviously Scoot Henderson was playing plays the point guard position, and so does LaMelo Ball in Charlotte. But you take out what Scoot has done in his rookie season, we go back a year, all the hype Scoot had, people were saying, including me, that he had generational point guard prospect potential, and it's a shame he's not been good this year for Portland. He would still go number 1 in this draft. I think when you get to the Thompson twins, it gets interesting. I think Amen would go number 1 in this draft. He went before Asor in that draft. He was projected to be the better shooter as well. I mean, both of them have sucked from outside this year. I mean, we expected that. Asor shooting 18% from 3. Amen is shooting 15% from 3. Asor shooting 48% from the field, though, which you'll take, and Amen 51%. So they kind of know what they're good at. They're both phenomenal defenders. They're both good playmakers. They're both excellent rebounders. They're very similar in play styles, I think, like at least what we've seen in their rookie season. And what we saw in the overtime elite, I liked Asor more. I had him ranked one spot ahead of Amen Thompson, but I thought Amen could have been one of the best athletes in this draft, and what we've seen out of athletes maybe just, I guess, since 2020 started too, looking back from that draft from a couple of drafts ago. So I do think the Thompson twins is where it starts getting questionable. Would you value I guess like 6'5", 6'6", 6'7" athleticism, not good shooting potential, but can handle the rock and have all defensive caliber potential? Or would you have like Alex Sarr, who maybe will develop a shot, maybe won't? Will he have a strong inside presence? Will he have that elite defensive caliber play that we are projecting to have? Or would you rather have kind of like the wing aspect? Or Risache, who is not as good a defender as Asor and Amen, not as good of a ball handler, but he's definitely a more polished scorer and obviously a way better light ways ahead shooter-wise. So I think the Thompson twins is interesting. I don't think Anthony Black would go number 1 in this class. I didn't even think was like going to go in the top 10 when he was at Arkansas. Bilal Coulibaly, no, he gained a lot of steam going up into the 24 draft. Jarris Walker, honestly, maybe. Like, because Houston was really good last year, and I think like that college potential, what he was showing on both ends of the floor for the Cougars, I think Jarris Walker actually would have some steam to go number 1 in this draft. Taylor Hendricks, no, at Central Florida, I think too small of a school. But I don't know, though. I don't think he would have gone in. Now they're in the Big 12. So, I mean, they're not really a small school. So I don't know why I said that. Casey Wallace, no. I think lacked like the scoring upside to go number 1. Jed Howard, definitely not. I didn't think he should be a lottery pick. Derek Lively, no. Grady Dick, no. Hawkins, no. Buffkin, no. Keontae George, no. I don't even think, like knowing what we know now, yeah, Jaime Hawkins could go number 1 or Cam Whitmore can go number 1. I actually think Cam Whitmore is the last guy we could talk about because my mocks, I had him as high as 4 at sometimes. I think I even had a mock out there where I thought he can go 3. This was probably before the lottery, but I remember like mocking him at 3 once, I think ahead of Brandon Miller, and I actually think could be the quote-unquote worst guy from this class that could go number 1 in the 2024 draft just because of his scoring upside. 3-level scorer, but he can't pass for shit. His court vision is horrible, and he definitely needs to work on that if he wants to kind of make his money as a playmaking wing at this level. So I think Wemby lock, Miller lock, Scoot lock. I think Thompson twins are close to locks, but could go either way. I think Jarris Walker could have some say, and I think Cam Whitmore. So probably the worst player, quote-unquote, going back to last draft cycle, is probably Jarris Walker. I had Cam Whitmore rated higher than Jarris Walker, so I would say Jarris Walker is the quote-unquote worst player that could go number 1 in a 2024 draft. Realistically, as much like shine as like Keontae George has shown this year, nobody thought he could even have been a top 10 pick really last year out of Baylor, so I don't think he would have gone number 1 in this class. Obviously, hindsight, 2020, from what we know now, yeah, Keontae George would probably go number 1 in this class, but I think just like it would be Cam Whitmore, Jarris Walker, Thompson twins, Miller, Scoot, and Wemby. That's what? That's 6 guys. That's a decent amount. It's just, I think this is really the 2024 draft is going to be the role player draft. You want guys that can be complementary pieces, connecting pieces, good shooters, good defenders, good ball handlers, won't turn the ball over, high basketball IQ, but maybe necessarily will never make an all-star game or an all-NBA team. All right, so now let's talk about head coaches that could potentially get fired towards the end of the season. So we'll talk about some playoff teams, some non-playoff teams. Obviously, we've seen some coaching fires this year, like Wes Unseld's been let go in Washington. We'd have to assume they're going to get a new head coach this offseason. Jacques Vaughn was just fired as the Brooklyn Nets head coach. Kevin Ollie, I don't think he's going to be the long-term guy there, but we'll see. So we can start in the Eastern Conference. Joe Mazzulla could get fired if the Celtics... I mean, if they lost like game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals, maybe he stays another year. Maybe they go up against a really good Bucks team, a fully healthy Bucks team that has all the momentum. I think that's the only team that could beat him in the conference finals that could keep Joe Mazzulla his job. But if they lose to Cleveland, New York, even if it's Miami again, I think Mazzulla ends up getting fired. And if they lose in round 1 or round 2, yeah, it's a wrap. He would definitely get let go. But I mean, Boston is good enough to go to the finals, so I think he's going to be okay. And if they lose to the Bucks, I think he'll be okay. But I think if he loses to Cleveland, New York, or those teams that I mentioned, Philly as well, he would end up getting fired. And it'll just be 2 years. I mean, he spent, 2 years there in Boston? This is his second year. Last year was his first year? That is crazy. That is crazy that Mazzulla, I feel like, has already been on the hot seat. I know last year was bad, but I don't know, man. He was 57-25 last year. He may eclipse that record this year. Probably will. Definitely will. They're going to win 60 games this year. But yeah, I think if they don't make it out of the conference finals, he could get fired for sure. Or make it to the conference finals, I should say. Doc Rivers obviously signed a bag. He's not getting fired. I think JB Bickerstaff was talked about most of the year to get fired, and then Evan Mobley gets hurt, Darius Garland gets hurt, and then they're like, all right, are the Cavs going to be a playing tournament team? Could they be a first-round exit? But no, they've been playing phenomenal without those guys, with those guys. Mobley got hurt again. Garland is back, though. He has been phenomenal as of late. When he's been healthy, Donovan Mitchell this year has been an absolute freaking stud. Their bench looks better. Obviously, their defense is really good, anchored by Jared Allen. Yeah, I don't think JB Bickerstaff's getting fired. Doc Rivers just signed that extension. He's not getting fired. As much as you may hate his rotations, Tibbs is not getting fired either. The Knicks have had too much instability at the head coaching position. Too much of a carousel of just head coaches getting fired and let go. Your Kurt Rambuses, your Derek Fishers, your Isaiah Thomases, your Larry Browns, your Jeff Hornaceks, your David Fizdales. We're done with that. The Knicks actually have a good and respectable head coach, so he's not going anywhere. Jamal Mosley just signed an extension, not going anywhere. Nick Nurse's first year with Philadelphia, obviously he's not going anywhere. I think Rick Carlisle, I think he signed an extension recently, but I think for what they're building there, and it's only a half a year with Siakam, I don't think he gets let go or they part ways this year. I think if they had a playing tournament exit next year, though, that could be a possibility, but I don't think he's going anywhere. Obviously, Spoelstra's not going anywhere. Billy Donovan could get let go. I don't know if Reinsdorf would let go of Carney Shovas, the GM, and Billy Donovan started a whole new regime, whole new era there in Chicago as they actually enter into a proper rebuild. So that is a possibility. Billy Donovan could definitely be let go in Chicago. Quinn Snyder is not getting let go in Atlanta. Brooklyn already fired their head coach in Jacques Vaughn. So I do think that they're going to find a new head coach. I don't think Kevin Ollie is going to be the answer there unless they somehow make the playoffs, out of the playing tournament. Then I think that could be enough for him to stay. Steve Clifford should definitely get fired. They need to move on. I think they need a new, not even a younger head coach, but I think somebody that can actually build in a better culture there. It seems like they're going in that direction. They moved on from Rozier, Gordon Hayward, who probably wasn't a good leader there, and veteran. PJ Washington they moved on from. I hope they don't bring back Miles Bridges, but we'll see. But they went, I don't know. I mean, this is only his second year, and it was such a weird signing because he was kind of average in Orlando, but he was with Charlotte. I don't know why they brought back him. They went 43-39. They got swept in the playoffs in 2014. 33-49 in 2015, didn't make the playoffs. They ended up making, was it round 2 in 2016? No, they lost in 7 games in round 1 in 2016. 36 wins 2017, 36 wins 2018. I guess he was never a bottom feeder in the Eastern Conference with some pretty poor rosters around Kemba Walker. I think Mitch Kupchak should get fired, the general manager. I don't think he's done a good job. Clifford, did 3 years in Orlando, 42 wins, 33 wins. He went 21-51 in 21 and then ended up getting hired by the Hornets. That's crazy. I think they should move in a new direction. 27 wins last year, 17 this year. It's not been good rosters, but I think they got to move on in a different direction. Dwayne Casey, he signed at the time the highest paid coaching job ever in NBA history, and it was a 5-year deal. So I don't think he gets fired. I think maybe if they have a 15-win season or around that again next year, we could think about it, but I don't think he's going to get fired year 1 into that deal. And then the Wizards already fired Wes Unseld, so we're definitely going to see a new Wizards head coach this offseason. For the Western Conference, I think a little bit more stability at the top for sure. Denver, Mike Malone obviously staying, Mark Daigneault obviously staying, Chris Finch, I think at one point, I think he could have been on the hot seat after last offseason, but how good they've been this year. They've had their injuries. He's good. Ty Lue, if the Clippers lost in round 1, maybe. There's been, I think, rumblings of that before. Could he get let go? They've been kind of underachieving with Kawhi and Paul George, but they've had their fair share of injuries in the playoffs. This is his 4th year as the Clippers head coach. He did spend the 2020 season as an assistant. 47 wins in his first year, 42-40 in year 2. Last year they went 44-38, got bounced in round 1, and then back in 2021 they lost in the conference semifinals, and then they ended up. Was it the conference semifinals? 2021. No. Wait. They lost to the Jazz or they beat the Jazz? I think they lost. Why am I blanking on if they lost to the Jazz? No, they beat the Jazz in 6. Yeah, because Kawhi got hurt and they still won. Why did I remember that as the Jazz could have won that? Wow, the Jazz really had some bad playoff appearances with Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert, besides the 2018 one when they beat Paul George and Melo in OKC. But back to Lou, 44 wins last year, 41 this year. It's a good Clippers team. They have James Harden. I think if they're a first-round exit, fully healthy, he could get let go. But if like Kawhi's out, Paul George is out, even if Harden's out, I think he'll be okay. I think they'll bring him back. Willie Green, I think could have been on the hot seat if the Pelicans had a disappointing finish this year, but they're good. I think he's there to stay. For Sacramento, wow, I was blanking on Mike Brown, who literally won Coach of the Year last year. He's fine. Frank Vogel's fine, year 1 in Phoenix. Jason Kidd could be on the hot seat if Dallas ends up not making it out of the play-in tournament. If they don't make like the actual playoffs, I think he could get fired. I mean, Kidd has had a weird like kind of history. I mean, he went 44-38 in his first year in Brooklyn, was average in Milwaukee. He was 500 his first year, 33-49 in year 2, 42-40 in year 3, and then 23-22 before getting fired mid-season. People say he stumped Giannis' development. Some people say he helped it. He was really good in his first year in Dallas, made it to the conference finals, 52-30. Last year was very disappointing at 38-48. This year they're 38-28. Probably not going to have 52 wins. I think if they don't make it out of the play-in tournament, it's a possibility he could get fired, but I think it's more odds that he is the coach next year in 2025. Darvin Ham could definitely get fired as the Lakers coach. I think that's going to be up to LeBron. I think if the Lakers lose in round 1, lose in the play-in tournament, lose in round 2, hell, even if they lose in round 3 and LeBron is like, I'll stay in LA, but I want to pick my next head coach, yeah, Darvin Ham could get fired for sure. Steve Kerr just signed an extension, not getting fired. Ime Udoka, fairly new in Houston. He's not getting fired. It's his year 1, and they've turned that team around a little bit. Will Hardy, not getting fired in Utah. Taylor Jenkins, better not get fired in Memphis. He's honestly, I think, one of the more underrated head coaches. I think Pop obviously staying in San Antonio. If anything, he retires. The last one could be Chauncey Billups. I think they should fire him. I'm not a huge fan of Billups. I know he hasn't been dealt great rosters, but I feel like he's underachieved. And this roster, I mean, it's had some injuries, but like, who's really developed this year? Scoot hasn't developed. Shaedon Sharpe has had his injuries, but I don't think he's really taken a next step. Simons has developed, sure. But I think also like the front office has put this team in a weird limbo state. I don't know. I may be too harsh on Billups. You guys can let me know that. But I think there is a chance he could get fired. Yeah. All right. So next up, I want to talk about the Golden State Warriors. I don't like really enjoy, like, I don't root for the Warriors by any means, but I do like a ton of their players. And I think they're in a very interesting position for a team that had a borderline dynasty in the 2010s and early 2020s, winning, 4 rings, one in 2015, 17, 18, and 22. They're 34-31. They're 10th in the West. Curry's dealing with the ankle injury. They're about an average offensive team and defensive team and overall team in the NBA, but they have a pending free agent by the name of Klay Thompson. I don't know if he's going to come back. Would a team like Orlando, would a team like Philly, would a team like San Antonio, would a team with cap space offer him $20+ million a year? And Golden State is paying Curry $55 million, paying Draymond $25, paying Wiggins $30 million, where they're like, yeah, we can't pay the tax here on Klay Thompson. Is it worth it? So they're, I think, in a very interesting position, and I'm excited to do like their offseason preview. Probably going to do like a mock offseason video for every team. If you follow the Triple Option podcast, my NFL one with my 2 friends, Tom and Dom, like we did mock off seasons. Those are super fun. Going to be excited for the Warriors one. I just kind of wanted to talk about what could happen this year if they ended up losing in the play-in tournament, losing in round 1. Because last year they beat the Kings in 7 games, I believe. And let me just double check. It was 7 games. No, it was 7 games. And they lost to the Lakers in 6 when people thought they could win that series. They were technically the higher seed. They were 6. The Lakers were 7. I'm trying to, like, they re-signed Kerr. Curry's coming back. Draymond's coming back. I mean, he's still a very impactful defensive player and can still orchestrate this offense as a secondary, ball handler for them. The Wiggins issue is tough, man. Because Wiggins Wiggins is a negative asset. Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened to him in 22, but that looks like it was an outlier because he had a good season with the Timberwolves in 2017 and then regressed heavily in 18, in 19, in 2020 was traded to the Warriors. He looked better in 12 games in 2020 before COVID hit, and then 2021 he was good for the Warriors. 2022 he was good, so you got basically 2 years of good play. First one's in Golden State. Last year, appeared in 37 games. Honestly, was good in them. But what the hell happened this year, man? He is just not the same player by any means. And he's 28 years old. It's not like he's 35. So I think you got to figure out, can you get anything for Wiggins? Can you attach like Moses Moody to get off of Wiggins' contract? I don't know if that's worth it. Obviously, Podziemski's coming back. I mentioned Curry and Draymond. Kuminga, you probably should give your rookie extension to. Trae Jackson-Davis looks like a real rotational piece. Gary Payton's coming back as a defender. I think you got to figure out the 5 spot, though. Maybe another big. Move on from Mooney and Saric. Maybe go in a different direction. I like Saric a little bit more than Mooney just because he gives you some offensive versatility. Mooney, if he's not rebounding or defending at an all right level, like what's his purpose out there for them? But he's on a favorable contract, and he played well against the Kings in round 1 next year. I just think that the Warriors are going to be in a polarizing situation. Would they pay Clay? They're going to let Chris Paul walk or let him out of his contract because it's not fully guaranteed. And would we see a big trade in Golden State? Which could segue into the next topic. Who could be the biggest name that could get traded this offseason? So I think we could look at this in 2 different ways. We could look at a team that is looking to make maybe a lateral move by moving this guy, or a team that is completely blowing it up. So I think teams that could hit the reset button this offseason, obviously the Chicago Bulls, best player that could get traded on that team is Zach LaVine, still better than Alex Caruso. So Zach LaVine is, I think, our like point right there. Can we find somebody better than Zach LaVine that could end up getting traded this offseason that is realistic? I think somebody right out of the gate is Trae Young. We talked about him before. If the Hawks realize we could get an absolute haul, this is the peak of Trae Young's value. We can get 3 to 4 unprotected picks from San Antonio. We could maybe even get Jeremy Shohan or Kelvin Johnson or Devin Vassell, whoever they prefer. Maybe a Malachi Branham throw in. And we can get all our picks back that we gave up for Dejounte Murray, and then we could let Dejounte Murray run the show here on a much cheaper contract. That could appeal to them. So I think we look at it there. I think we look at Trae Young. We look at Zach LaVine. I think LaVine obviously has a higher chance of getting traded. But Trae Young, obviously a better player. I think LaVine or Murray, who do you prefer out of those two? I think I like Murray slightly more. So we could say one of the Hawks backcourt guys is the best guy to get traded. I don't think Donovan Mitchell is going to get traded. I think if like the Cavs had like I said before, playing tournament finish, maybe we're going to like retool a little bit. Donovan Mitchell's not going to re-sign with them in 25. They could move him, but I think if you ask people now, he's probably like favored to come back to Cleveland and sign an extension, and he's happy there. So I don't think we're going to talk about Donovan Mitchell. I don't think, even if the Cavs lose in round 1 and Mobley just looks like he can't play next to Allen, I don't think they move Mobley or Allen this offseason. I think they got to like see it one more time. Just kind of going throughout the Eastern Conference, I don't think the Celtics would move anybody, even if they had a disappointing finish. Obviously, the Pacers aren't moving anybody. So Raptors, no. LaMelo's not getting moved. Nobody on the Pistons. Kyle Kuzma is not good enough on the Wizards to talk about this. So if we look at this for just the Eastern Conference side, I think Mikal Bridges could be somebody if the Nets do want to enter a rebuild. So I think there's 4 guys in the East, Trae Young and Dejounte Murray. They're kind of contingent on each other. Zach LaVine and Mikal Bridges. So can we find somebody in the West that is better than those guys? Nobody on Denver is getting moved. OKC could theoretically move like a Chet Holmgren or Jalen Williams for a blockbuster trade package, but obviously we'd have to find the better name because those guys would not be the best name in that package. Minnesota, I don't think would move Cat this offseason. The Clippers, no. They have Paul George and Harden as free agents. The Pelicans, I don't think they move Zion. I think they've seen encouragements from him this year, and him and Brandon Ingram together. I think if Zion maybe didn't fully take a next step, hasn't shown progression as a playmaker, and like wasn't healthy, could he get traded? Yes, but I don't think we're going to see him get traded now. Sabonis or Fox, no. I don't think we see KD request a trade, or Devin Booker, Bradley Beal, Kyrie, Luka. No, I don't think Luka requests a trade this offseason or gets traded. Nobody on the Lakers. Nobody on the Warriors. Nobody on the Rockets. I don't think it would even be big enough, even if Jalen Green got traded. To he's not better than Bridges, Trae, or Murray, or Zach LaVine. Larry Markkinen is brought to the table here for sure. And then Portland, no. San Antonio, no. Memphis is weird. I don't think Bane or Triple J gets moved this offseason. It would have to be for a bigger name, but I just don't know who that bigger name would be. A lot of these guys have getting traded. Like, yeah, James Harden, you could always bring him up, but he got traded. Dame got traded. Drew Holiday got traded. Like, I don't think we can top any of those names. So I would say the biggest name is I got to see who's better. I don't think Lauri Markkanen gets traded, though. I realistically don't. Why would the Jazz move him? Why would they not extend him? He's really good. He's really good, and he's young, and they actually have a foundation around him with all these picks, and he was a great return in the Donovan Mitchell trade. So I don't really think anybody major gets moved in the West, but who knows, man? The NBA is like a soap opera sometimes, so somebody could definitely get moved. It's really just me figuring out the best guy in the East. So Trae Young obviously would be number one. I think Trae Young is the best guy that can get moved this offseason. If it's not Trae Young, I think it's Mikal Bridges is probably the best player out of Dejounte Murray and Zach LaVine, but obviously has not shown that he could be a number one. I think probably Bridges is 2. I would say Murray's 3, LaVine is 4, because LaVine has the injury history plus an even worse contract than like a Dejounte Murray, and they're both not good on the defensive side of the floor. LaVine's definitely more a polished scorer, but Bridges is on a better contract. Murray's on a better contract, and I think they're better all-around players than Zach LaVine is. So, yeah, that was kind of interesting to talk about. I wonder if we would see a big name. Like, Hero could be on the market this offseason. I don't even know, because, like, if Hero's on the market, there's got to be a bigger name out there. So I think Donovan Mitchell is a wild card. Could he get moved? I don't know if there's any other wild cards. Maybe Cat is a wild card in the West. I don't think Zion gets traded. I don't think Brandon Ingram gets traded. I don't think Luka gets traded. So yeah, I hope you guys did enjoy. I believe this is episode 14 of the Just Ballin' podcast. Thank you guys all for the support on the last couple of episodes. You guys have been like killing it. So it means a ton. I got 3 episodes out for you guys this week. I'm going to hopefully do 3 next week. I'm going to do definitely like my March Madness preview bracket for the pod next week as 1 episode, probably 5 Things Friday. So if you guys enjoyed that, please drop a thumbs up on YouTube. Let me know, maybe on Twitter. And then maybe we'll do a mailbag. Maybe we'll do a mailbag if I don't have a topic, or we could talk about kind of what's going on in the NBA. Obviously stuff like that as well. But I don't know if I'm going to get into the offseason previews yet. I think maybe those can start. It's tough because the lottery is like May 12th. And then we have basically a month till the draft. So unless I can kind of squeeze all those into that month, it's tough, because I would like to do it as these guys get eliminated. Like, I could do a Pistons mock off season. I theoretically could. So we could do that. If you guys want to see that, let me know, because they've already been eliminated, like the Pistons, the Wizards, the Hornets, the Spurs. We could start those now, do maybe once a week. But then obviously when the lottery comes out, we can really kind of go into those a little bit more in detail and know where they're picking in the draft. So thank you guys all for watching and listening. I love you guys, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.